Okay, guys, we are going to start some things with geometry. And what we're going to first talk about are angles. Okay, so there are a lot of different types of angles, and you need to be familiar with those. So the first thing I'm going to just go briefly over are complementary and supplementary angles. So complementary angles are when you have an angle inside, like two angles inside 90 degrees. And so you can see on this example here, right there, that little square sign like this, that's your 90-degree symbol. Okay, so if that angle is bisected like into two parts, then you know that this part is 73 degrees. Then I can figure out what this angle is because they have to add up to 90. So complementary angles add up to 90. So to figure out what's missing there, I can just take 90, subtract 73 from it, okay, and I can say that this angle here is going to be 17 degrees, okay? So those are complementary angles. The other kind of angle is called a supplementary angle. On a supplementary angle, the two angles must add up to 180 degrees. Or, I mean, it could be more than that. Like you could have one here too, so it could be more than just one angle. But so you know, or you should know, that a straight line, the angle there is 180 degrees. Okay, so this line here is at 180 degrees. This line here coming up is splitting it into two angles. Therefore, 149 and 31 have to add up to 180 degrees. So those two angles would have to add up to 180 degrees. The next type of angle I'm going to talk about real quick is adjacent angles. These are two angles that share a vertex. So they share a vertex in one side, but they don't overlap. Okay? So I'm going to outline in green. Angle AFC, okay, and CFD, okay, those angles share a vertex and they share this side, so they are adjacent, okay. Now you can see here that AFC, so I'm going to go blue on here, AFC and BDF are not adjacent because they don't share a side. Okay, so those ones would not be adjacent. So you have to share a side to be adjacent and have the same vertex. Okay? Vertical angles are angles that are opposite one another when two lines are intersecting. So here we have two lines intersecting. Okay? And so they're also going to be congruent. So when these two lines intersect here at point Z, these two angles of 70, those are vertical angles. So they share the vertex, okay? And they're opposite each other. So they're the same, their angle measurement is the same. Also, these two angles here, VZY and WZX, these are also vertical angles. So they're each 110 degrees. Okay, so they're opposite of each other. They have that vertex point, and they are going to be formed when the two sides are, the two angles intersect. That word congruent means they have the same measurement. Okay, so angles that are congruent have the same measurement. All right. A couple other things. An exterior angle is an angle between any side of a shape and the line extended from the next side. An interior angle is an angle inside the shape. We just talked about vertical and straight angles, or vertical angles, and those are, and straight angles. We talked about that too, that those are 180 degrees, okay? We talked about supplementary. That would be two angles that add up to be 180 degrees, and complementary. The definition there, they add up to 180, or to 90 degrees, sorry, 90 degrees, complementary, okay? So I put the definitions in here so that you can take a minute and study those if you need to, if you're not sure. So let's talk about adjacent angles. Angles are adjacent when they share a common side and have the same vertex, okay? So here, angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent because they're right next to each other. They have the same vertex point here and they share this side. So those are adjacent angles. So you should know that word adjacent means next to. Okay? 2 and 4 aren't adjacent angles. What those would be vertical angles because they're opposite of each other. Okay? And they look congruent to me. So 2 vertical angles are formed when the opposite angles are formed by the intersection of 2 lines. Vertical angles are congruent, meaning they have the same measure. So 1 and 3 are vertical angles here. 1 and 3. And then 2 and 4 would be vertical angles. As you can see, they look congruent and they're opposite of each other. So those are vertical angles. When you name a pair of angles over here, so we can see here that ABC here and ABF, that they share a common side here, right? Of A, this side here, that line segment is their common, and B is the vertex. So that's how those are adjacent. And then if you look for vertical angles here, you can see that ABF, this angle, and CBD right here, they're opposite of each other and they look congruent. So those would be vertical angles. Okay? So now it's our turn. They want us to take a look here. They want 2 pairs of adjacent angles and 2 pairs of vertical angles. Okay? Okay, so let's look at number 1 here. 2 pairs of adjacent angles. Well, remember, adjacent angles share a common side and vertex. So here's a vertex, right? This is a common side. So this angle and this one, right, would be adjacent. So I'm going to list that, and I'm going to say adjacent. So it's going to be angle VWZ and angle VWX. Okay, so that vertex point is in the middle there. They share that and the common side. Okay, another adjacent angle would be here and here. Okay, so that's angle ZWY and YWX. So those angles would be adjacent. They share that common side. The vertical angles for number 1, okay, so this angle would be vertical to this one. So they share that W point, but they're opposite of each other and they're congruent. So a vertical angle here would be XWY is vertical and VWZ would be vertical. Then you also have this one to this one being vertical. So they're opposite of each other, sharing this vertex, and they're congruent. So then that is also going to be angle ZWY and angle VWX. Okay? So now they want us to know if it's adjacent or vertical and then find the value of X. So I'm just going to look at A here. So if you look, you have 70 degrees here, then you have X over here. These are going to be vertical angles because they're formed by 2 lines that are intersecting. If this one is 70 degrees, then this one has to be 70 degrees. That's what this is telling us over here. Okay, so they have the same measure. If we look at part B here, you can see that these are going to be complementary angles. They share a vertex, but they have this common side. Okay, so these have to add up to 90 degrees together. So you see the equation here, x plus 4 plus 31 equals 90. That simplifies to x plus 35 is 90. I would subtract 35 from both sides, and I'm going to get the value of x to be 55. Okay. Here they want us to tell if the angles are adjacent or vertical and find the value of x. So if we look at number 3 here, you can tell that these angles have the same vertex point and they share this side. So that means this is adjacent. So number 3 is going to be adjacent. Now, a straight angle adds up to 180, right? So that means that 85 plus x has to be 180. So then what I'm going to do is subtract 85 from both sides. I'll get 95 is equal to x. So let's check that by taking 95 plus 85. I do get 180, so I know I'm right. That's a terrible 180, but there it is. Okay, now if I look at number 4, these two angles are opposite of each other, formed by two lines that intersect, and they look congruent. Therefore, these are vertical angles. Okay, so if this one, as you can see, is the 90-degree symbol, that means x has to also be 90 degrees. There are some more examples here, just like the one we just did. So you're welcome to try those on your own, to pause the video and try those. They'll also be in your packet. Here is a little review that's in this lesson. So I'm going to start with number 27. Okay. So number 27 gives us negative 6n is greater than 54. So I'm going to solve this like I solve an algebraic equation, right? I would have to divide by negative 6 on both sides, right, to simplify to get n. However, what you have to remember is when you divide inequalities by negative numbers, you must flip the sign, okay? So then it's going to become n is less than negative 9 is my answer, okay? So that means if I would plug negative 9 in for n, negative 6 times negative 9 is what? You should say, okay, I'm going to switch that. N has to be less than negative 9. So I'm going to use negative 10, right? Because negative 10 is less than negative 9 because it's further to the left of 0. So if I take negative 6 times negative 10, I'm going to get 60, and 60 is greater than 54, okay? So don't forget to flip that inequality sign if you're dividing by a negative. I'm going to come down here, and so you can try those other ones, 28 and 29 on your own. And then down here, they want to know the slope of the line that passes through the points 2, 3, and 6, 8. Well, here's where you need to use that y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? So y2 is going to be 8, so it's going to be 8 minus y1, which is 3, over x2, which is 6, minus x1, which is 2. So that's going to become 5 over 4, okay, for an answer of B, okay? And just to review, sum up the end of the video, again, complementary angles are going to add up to 90 degrees. So this angle plus this one is going to be 90 degrees. Supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. So this angle plus this angle will give me 180 degrees. Okay? Adjacent angles are two angles that share a vertex and a side. Okay, so those angles are adjacent. So remember that adjacent means next to. Okay, so that should be helpful there. Vertical angles are formed when two lines intersect. They share the vertex, and I'm talking opposites, and they're congruent. Okay, so this would be a vertical angle, and then on this side, these two would be vertical angles. And then I just gave another overview here of an obtuse angle, again, greater than 90 degrees. Vertical angles, the two intersecting. Supplementary, adding up to 180. The right angle, which is 90 degrees. The adjacent angles that share the vertex and a side. And then the complementary angles that have to add up to 90. Okay, so there's your angles video. If you have any questions, please let us know. Just study what each angle is and the definition of those, and it'll really help you keep it straight. Okay, thanks, guys.